Dreamland by Edgar Allan Poe.
By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright. I have reached these lands but newly, from an ultimate dim Thule, from a wild weird clime that leath sublime, out of space, out of time.
Bottomless vales and boundless floods, and chasms and caves and titan woods, with forms that no man can discover, for the dews that drip all over, mountains toppling evermore, into seas without a shore, seas that restlessly aspire, surging unto skies of fire, lakes that endlessly outspread, their lone waters lone and dead, their still waters, still and chilly, with the snows of the lolling lily.
By the lakes that thus outspread, their lone waters, lone and dead, their sad waters, sad and chilly, with the snows of the lolling lily. By the mountains near the river, murmuring lowly, murmuring ever. By the grey woods, by the swamp, where the toad and the newt encamp. By the dismal tarns and pools, where dwell the ghouls. By each spot the most unholy, in each nook most melancholy. There the traveller meets aghast, sheeted memories of the past, shrouded forms that start and sigh, as they pass the wanderer by. White-robed forms of friends long given, in agony, to the earth and heaven.
For the heart whose woes are legion, 'tis a peaceful, soothing region. For the spirit that walks in shadow, 'tis an Eldorado. But the traveller, travelling through it, may not dare openly view it. Never its mysteries are exposed, to the weak human eye unclosed. So wills its king who hath forbid the uplifting of the fringed lid, and thus the sad soul that here passes beholds it but through darkened glasses.
By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright, I have wandered home but newly, from this ultimate dim Thule.
The speaker in Dreamland describes a mysterious supernatural setting with many different physical features, including lakes, rivers, chasms, caves, and a swamp as they are traveling through, which is the poem's literal meaning. The speaker also sees ghosts that are the spirits of his loved ones.
The poem is told through the speaker's first-person point of view. This is evident from line 4, where it says, I have reached these lands but newly. This view through the speaker's perspective allows for a description of the setting as the speaker sees it. This is to attempt to help the reader better visualize the setting of the poem because they could feel as if they are walking through the dreamland in their minds.
There are multiple examples of influences from the Gothic era in Dreamland. For instance, in the first stanza, the first 4 lines read, By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright. These lines attempt to communicate a sense of fear to the reader as soon as the poem begins.
Edgar Allan Poe keeps a dark, depressing, and mysterious tone throughout Dreamland. He uses imagery in the first stanza to set the supernatural theme for the poem. He wants the reader to retain a gloomy and mysterious mood or feeling throughout the poem. Line 1. By a route obscure and lonely. This first line sets the stage for most of the poem. As the speaker has already referenced a route, meaning there is some sort of journey ahead, it describes it as being obscure and lonely. This description represents a theme of mystery and darkness that is present throughout the poem. Lines 2 through 4. Haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright. The speaker introduces an eidolon here, which is the same as a phantom or apparition. It tells the reader that its name is Night and that it rules upon a black throne. Both these descriptions give a negative connotation, which reinforces the gloomy and mysterious mood that is present for most of the poem. Lines 5 through 6. I have reached these lands but newly, from an ultimate dim Thule. The speaker informs the reader that the speaker is journeying here from a Thule, which is the same place believed by ancient geographers to be the northernmost land in the inhabited world. This adds another element of mystery. The speaker has stated that the speaker has traveled from some otherworldly place. Lines 7 through 8. From a wild weird clime that leath sublime, out of space, out of time. The speaker says that the speaker has come from an enchanted place that is beyond the realm of space and time. This also adds to the strange and mysterious feeling created in the poem. Also, Poe creates a sense of imagery through his description of the journey from the Thule to the speaker's setting.
In stanza 2, the speaker uses multiple metaphors to better describe what the landscape and setting around him was like. This is all an attempt to create an image for the reader of what the speaker experienced. When the speaker says, "into seas without a shore," in line 14, the speaker is describing the vast size of the ocean nearby. Describing the ocean by saying it has no shores means it was so large that there is no end in sight. The setting the speaker is in, as they describe, behold secrets that no man can discover, as stated in line 11. Through this line, the speaker is suggesting that they are not human, due to the fact that the speaker has knowledge of what no man can see. The speaker also uses repetition in lines 18 and 19 to describe the stillness of the lake. The lone waters, lone and dead, which also includes a metaphor comparing the stillness of the water to the stillness of the dead. In line 19, their still waters, still and chilly. All this is used as a means to describe the setting of the poem through the speaker's eyes.
In the third stanza of Dreamland, Poe uses personification, imagery, and repetition as well as an extremely precise word choice to have the reader feeling exactly what he wants them to feel at each part of Dreamland. In the first 4 lines of this stanza, lines 21 to 24, Poe nearly repeats what he had just written to finish the previous stanza about the waters of the lake and the snow. Repeating this creates a rhythm in the poem to strengthen the constant, dark, and depressing mood. The next 2 lines of the poem, lines 25 to 26, state, "By the mountains, near the river, murmuring lowly, murmuring ever," are a personification. The river is murmuring, meaning the speaker can hear its constant, quiet flowing. In the next 3 lines, lines 27 to 29, "By the gray woods, by the swamp, where the toad and the newt encamp, by the dismal tarns and pools," the speaker is going towards a swamp, which already had a negative connotation to it, and Poe describing the ponds as dismal, which means depressing or dreary, makes the reader feel at an even greater unrest while reading. In the next 3 lines, lines 30 to 32, "Where dwell the ghouls, by each spot the most unholy, in each nook most melancholy," the speaker introduces creepy ghouls all around him, in every corner, and adds to the depressing and dark mood by describing the presence of the ghouls as most melancholy. Lines 33 and 34 show a very important part of this poem. They state, "There the traveler meets aghast, sheeted memories of the past." The speaker is terrified as they realize that these ghouls are the ghosts of people that have died in their past. Throughout Poe's life, he had lost many of his family members at a young age. Both of his parents had died by the time he was 3. His wife Virginia had died when she was only 24 years old. His foster mother Frances Allen died when Poe was away in the military, and his foster father John Allen had died when Poe was writing in Baltimore. Poe was devastated and had no family at all after the death of his foster father John. The sheeted memories present in Dreamland are most likely connected to the memories Poe had of his family and the depression that he experienced. Lines 35 and 36 state, "Shrouded forms that start and sigh as they pass the wanderer by." Shrouded is a synonym of sheeted, but a shroud is what is used to wrap dead bodies. In the poem, the speaker is talking about moaning ghosts passing by the wanderer or other travelers. The final 2 lines of the stanza, lines 37 to 38, state, "White-robed forms of friends long given, in agony to earth and heaven." The speaker says that these ghosts are forms of his friends and family that have died, and expresses their emotional suffering by saying that they are in agony to earth and in heaven. These lines are very significant in the poem because they show why the speaker is so depressed the entire time.
The speaker's description of his surroundings
Adds to the depressing tone.
It begins with a metaphor in line 39, "the heart whose woes are legion," which compares the sorrow of a person to the ancient Roman legion. The legions were large and consisted of many warriors, meaning that the person was very sorrowful. The speaker mentions an El Dorado that the speaker sees in line 42. An El Dorado is a metaphor for the ultimate prize one works for in life. According to the speaker, the El Dorado cannot be seen by weak human eyes that are looking for it, furthering the assumption that the speaker is not physically in the setting. The speaker then describes the soul that can see the El Dorado as a sad glasses improving the sight of the soul so that the soul can see the El Dorado. And the description of the glasses as darkened suggests that the soul's new sight was gloomy or unhappy.
In the 5th and final stanza, Poe attempts to reiterate the poem's principal theme of darkness and mystery. Lines 51 to 54. By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright. Poe repeats the same couplets from the first stanza to dignify the importance of this part and ensure that this dark and gloomy tone remains stagnant as he attempts to make this part the most memorable to the reader. Lines 55 to 56. I've wandered home but newly from this ultimate dim Thule. In this final couplet of the poem, the speaker tells the reader that rather than arriving, the speaker is now returning back to the home he came from.